Sydney, what is going on here? And there's a lot of news pieces covering all the terrible happenings in the last few days. I talked about yesterday the stabbings at Westfield Bondi Junction. And now we've got, and I'm reading from the ABC, Sydney bishop among four allegedly stabbed at church during live-streamed mass. Bishop Murray Emmanuel is in a critical but stable condition following the attack on Monday evening at Christ the Good Shepherd Church in Wakeling. There's definitely something in the air because people are tuned into the collective, the zeitgeist, the emotional zeitgeist of the collective. I know that sounds fancy and a whole lot of like, what are you saying? But I do find it interesting that people don't realize how connected we all are, not just by the earth we live on, the planet we live on, the landmass that has got currents and winds and etc., all circulating around the planet, of course, bringing with it the carbon, the air we breathe out, we exhale out of our traumatized or, in some cases, deranged cells, and in a lot of cases, apathy. So I'm going to continue reading this. It's horrific, and in various articles, on various publications in Australia, I'm seeing that people are saying, this is not happening in our backyard. It can't happen in Sydney. Sure, not in Euro-Australia, Sydney, and not in male-Australia, Sydney, but women know, and black and brown and people of colour, multicultural know that this happens to people, especially First Nations people of this land we call Australia. And it happens on a regular basis and no one seems to do anything about it. Of course, they'll say, well, there hasn't been a massacre like this, maybe not in this century. To First Nations people, but there have been massacres. This country was built on massacres. Don't get me wrong here, I love Australia. It is my country of choice to live in. This is why I moved here decades ago, because also it was built on sacred land, and it is the land that draws me to it. And this land now is saying that there is something rotten. Oh, what is that? What is the quote? What is that? There's a Shakespearean quote, which I can't remember right now, but I'm going to continue with the story. Sydney Bishop Murray Emmanuel is among at least four people injured in an alleged stabbing incident during a church service in the city's southwest. The Premier of New South Wales convened a meeting of religious leaders in Western Sydney on Monday night, who endorsed and supported a unanimous condemnation of violence in any form. Well, you'd hope so. You'd hope so that religious leaders condemn violence in any form, because unfortunately the religions that these religious leaders are all sharing and spreading, and the religions all have subtle coders in them. Gosh, and I'm not saying religion is a bad thing. It could have been a great thing. Religion could have been a wonderful thing to guide people who don't really know what to do, how to navigate this world, how to navigate life, how to figure out who they are and what they align with. People can't seem to do that on their own. And when I say seem, I am talking now about millennia. This is why the construct of religion happened. Just to guide people from the various regions, and whatever religion was originated from the region, then resonated with the people of that region. So the region became religion. Faith is a good thing, and I, at the ripe old age of 53, have finally can say the words, I believe in God. However, I do not believe in whatever this ill is. I'm going to continue reading. A Sydney bishop has allegedly been stabbed by a teenager during a church service in the city's southwest, with police officers also injured. The attack occurred at the Assyrian Orthodox Church, Christ the Good Shepherd Church in Wakeling on Monday night, with graphic video showing a person lunging at Bishop Murray Emmanuel with something in their hand during a mass that was being broadcast online. New South Wales Ambulance said 3 other people were also stabbed. Assistant Commissioner Andrew Holland said a 15-year-old was detained and held down by members of the church. He said an emotional response built outside the church, and up to 100 police officers were then called to the scene. So I don't think Young people, especially boys, are damaged. And the role models, and I say this very loosely, role models they have are all people of hatred who are saying, take what you want. You are a man. Take what you want by force. Something's really happening to the world. Sydney is, and people are saying, not in our backyard. Yes, it happens in our backyard. It happened at the start of the creation of the construction of this country. I'm going to move on to other headlines from ABC. Moved to tears, the hottest year on record unleashes a mass coral bleaching tragedy. After a year of record-breaking heat, a devastating story has been playing out in the world's oceans. Scientists working along the most breathtaking reefs show what led to climate agency NOAA calling a global bleaching event for only the fourth time in history. I remember snorkeling in Fiji waters just, where were we? Just off the Mamanuthas. And the coral that I was used to seeing in the waters of Fiji, and this was in 2012, were bleached. And yes, the water was warm, but it wasn't unseasonably warm. But the currents doing what they do, they don't get warm in the southern hemisphere or around the eastern sides until January and February. And this was December. And I remember feeling, wow, this water is unseasonably warm. Well, that bleaching isn't just a result of, like, they love to blame individuals instead of corporations. Why aren't we looking at all the things that is in the water? What about all the oil rigs on the other side of the world? What about all the submarines patrolling the borders? And I'm sure I've got some news here about orcas, which now they've got Japan joining that orcas union, Trinity. Now they want a, quad. And now it's going to be Jorka. So they're going to put J at the start. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about the Australia, United Kingdom, and United States Unity Trinity getting submarines, nuclear submarines. And they want Japan on their side because China wants no part in this. There is a war happening in government minds. How can we, the people, stop it, considering we, the people, are the people who vote the people in government in to be the voice and representatives of us? Is this what we want? No. But we all still, look, I don't know. We certainly don't want war, but we battle with ourselves about what it is we want. And as I have said, and I will continue to say, until you know who you are as an individual, the world will not change. The world is made up of individuals. And we seem to have this herd mentality, which is good when it's creating immunity. But it's not good when it comes to belief systems that we're all manipulated by. I'm going to continue reading articles. They don't stand a chance. After the Bondi Junction attack, do security guards need more powers? No, they don't. What we need is to really look at what is damaging people. Why was this 40-year-old man who was known to be a schizophrenic, what set him off? Why did he target women? Is it a sole women-targeted thing? He mostly went for Euro-Australian blondes and Asian origin women. So one was a foreign national and one was a woman, wasn't an Australian woman, but she looked like I could be surmising here, presuming, but she did look of Asian origin. So this seems to me, and all the males, all the men, there were some men who actually, I'm going back now to the Bondi shooting. There were some men who actually did stand up. There was a man on the escalator, and I'm really glad we weren't there. Actually, because I know who we are, and I know who, he is. So I'm glad men actually got up, and there was one holding a bollard. There was one trying to do the people. But in yesterday's Daily Egg, I said it was a 70-centimeter knife. It was a 30-centimeter knife. I also, I can't remember if I did share this. No, yes, I will continue sharing some of the news. Security guards don't need more powers. What we do need are police who are making people feel that A, we're protected, and B, we should be scared if we're going to do something wrong. But instead, it's the people who should be feeling like they're protected. We're the ones feeling like, oh my God, I'm feeling really scared right now. because of police presence, which is a shame because, as I said yesterday, I know many individual police people who are kind and compassionate, and they get into doing this because they want to protect people. However, you can't just blame one body. You can't just blame one authoritative organization, because then you've got to blame them all. You've got to blame all the corporations. You've got to blame all the corporations of religion too. Security guards do not need more powers. What we need is to really understand what is happening. Now, I'm going to read another story about the Westfield Bondi Junction stabbing, because for 14 hours over the weekend, a Sydney University student, and I'm not going to say his name, was one of the most reviled men on the internet, falsely accused of the Bondi Junction stabbings. And I saw it. I saw it too because I guess because the person accused looks like the person who was the actual murderer, Joel Cauchi. Now, the person accused is of Jewish, is Jewish. And unfortunately, I saw it too. I saw it on Instagram. People were saying it's this guy and he's Jewish, and this is how the falsehood spread. Oh my God, through gossip media. And also because people really want this to not be a white Australian. People really want this person to have been either Arabic, Middle Eastern, or Jewish, of Jewish faith. And both of them, by the way, is anti-Semitic. If you are going to use that term in any way, you've also got to understand that people who are against Middle Eastern people, people who are against Palestinian people, against what's happening in Palestine, are also anti-Semitic. Semite, PSA, I say this every time, Semite is a term, an archaic term referring to the languages of the region, and that is Arabic, Hebrew, and Afro-origin languages. Whew. So if you're going to use that term, you're going to have to use it against yourself too. I'm going to move on to see what else is happening. Senator David Pocock is on a mission to hold Canberra to account, and he won't stop with the Department of Defence. Senator Pocock is David Pocock. For those people who go, why do I know his name? Because he is a former Wallaby captain. By the way, stay tuned. We have a show dropping this week. Yes? Yep. Rucks and Rolls, where we talk everything rugby. But I'm going to continue with this news. David Pocock is wasting no time in office. His interrogations might be genteel and his tone conciliatory, but the man expects answers. The 35-year-old first-time politician and former rugby international is striking terror into the heart of the establishment. Who could have predicted it? Well, us. He is a former Wallaby. Hello, back in a time when the Wallabies had some trophies. Anyway, Pocock, I'm not sure if they had trophies when Pocock actually was the captain, but I did admire him as a captain.
Yeah, he was a good number 7.
And he was a good number 7 too, and so cool. So Pocock has the Department of Defence in his sights, the senator for the ACT, and I believe he's independent. I think he just formed his own party. Now this is proactive. He knew he couldn't align himself with anyone else. Of course, he has a lot of privilege backing it, and he is a Euro-Australian. However, he has Australia, and by Australia, the entire land and the construction of Australia in his mental, his emotional portfolio. I back him. I think he can make a real difference, and he is choosing to do it alone. He has proven he has actually done things like, I'm sure, chain himself or, to a bulldozer or something, in one of those mining trucks.
I remember him in Africa fighting with the rangers.
Right.
To stop ivory trade.
That's right. He is
poaching and stuff.
So our billionaires aren't the Bruce Waynes, aren't not even the Tony Starks. But and I'm talking now about characters, our fiction that we all go, wow, look, we've got all these superheroes. But people like Senator David Pocock, yeah, they're trying to do what they can with what they have in this reality that is friction. Fact and friction. All right, I'm going to continue now to Sydney Morning Herald. Again, so bishop stabbed while live streaming service. I'm just going to read headlines. Teen arrested, police counter angry crowds after church stabbing attack. Okay, so that's all that. And now there is another case going on in Sydney, which is very much Australian, and it's got to do with a rapist, his accuser, and it's really falling apart. And I haven't actually followed it, but I might do a deep dive of this later because I don't know anything about what's happening in this Lerman, I think that's his pronunciation, defamation case. Somebody has accused someone of rape, which, believe the woman. Having said that, no, believe the woman. We're going to move on. I will come back with a deep dive on this because I don't really know what it's about. So, from an aspiring teacher keen to meet others to a murderous loner, the parents of the Bondi Junction killer have spoken of his descent from country school kid to national monster against the backdrop of untreated mental illness, which we've got to talk about. Because as I said yesterday, we can't keep ascribing or connecting the term mental health and mental illness to people like that, because it is already a weak mind who then suffers mental illness. And then that weak mind implodes or explodes, and usually explodes. They externalize it. Oh, gosh. The most haunting thing about Bondi Junction right now is the silence. So, yes, this is what's happening in Sydney now. Stabbings galore. I think people will not want to leave their house. It's not just the lockdowns from the pandemic. Of course, when it comes to national health, then no one cares. But when it comes to, individuals, oh my God, we're so frightened. This doesn't happen in our backyard. Yes, it does. Read the news other than these Euro-Australian mastheads like Sydney Morning Herald. And sadly, the ABC is betraying its people. But let's see what's happening on NITV. News, unfortunately, NITV don't always carry the national news. They have to focus on what's happening with the people that they represent, and that is the First Nations people of this land. So their headlines are, Barker has alleged her family was racially profiled at a chemist warehouse, and I had shared this story a bit before. Barker is a top musician, Malyangapa Makinji musician. Barker, a superstar of the rap scene, took to Instagram to detail an alleged incident between her family and staff at a chemist warehouse on Wednesday night. Barker, born Chloe Quayle, had taken her daughter to the store that evening to celebrate recent good grades, purchasing beauty and hair care products. I saw that all on Instagram because I follow Barker's Instagram account, and it was terrible. It was so sad. Now, Barker is a superstar. She is kicking it. She is just absolutely, and we like her music. I have played her music here. She's got real power. Real power. And this is what happens to people, even who have power, who are showing their superstar chops and doing it. And she has had a fairly hard life, like pretty much every First Nations person or origin person. They have to battle a lot, especially the non-white passing ones. And it doesn't matter what they look like, because there was a lot of ethnic cleansing that went on in the start of the construction of Australia, colonized land that is now Australia. And so there are a lot of people who are white passing who are at their soul First Nations. And gosh, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to continue with SBS News. I have to clear my throat. Excuse me a moment. Whew. So the security guard, and I had a news article out here. The security guard, Faraz Tahir, named as Bondi stabbing victim, and he actually died trying to do his job. But we all do believe, and it's strongly suggested that the murderer was attacking women. I'm going to move on now. International news outlets. Because Sydney now is all about all the stabbings. Whew, so there may be some good things happening, but it's all been overshadowed by that. But again, what is happening? And it's males. It's males of all ages. A 15-year-old stabbed. Was it a dare? Is he crazy? These people have got role models, as I said, like Andrew Tate and when you start saying things like you need to go at force, you need to be assertive, to be a man means what if you feel a certain way, you've got to... There is a reason why you looked at society and went, if that's what a man is, Thanks very much. I'm going to be a man by myself. Thank you. Because societal ideation of what a man is, well, they're certainly killing all the women. But, you know, this is interesting that a bishop, it's interesting. I'm going to move on. So now we are Radio New Zealand, RNZ. Single ministry has spent $6.3 million for job cut payouts so far. The total cost of redundancies across the public service is not yet known, and the finance minister has not asked for an estimate. New Zealand public service job cuts, what we know so far. Goodness me. $6.3 million in payouts at one ministry so far. The cost of slashing public servants at a single government department has already exceeded $6 million. Almost 2,000 jobs across 19 departments have already been de-established or will soon be. The total cost of redundancies, well, they now know it's $6 million. It just says here it's not yet known. But Nicola Willis told Morning Report she was confident the government would save far more by cutting jobs than it would pay out in redundancies. The government would save more by cutting jobs than it would pay out in redundancies? What did I just read out here?
Truth?
So in order for the government to save money, the government, you know, the voice of the people, could you just find out the etymology of government for me?
Absolutely.
I don't really know what to say. It's like banks making a profit. I don't... And again, PSA, why are things expensive? Profits, because governments, oh, it's French, it's Latin origin. And what else? What does govern mean? What is the Latin origin of govern?
Latin governor, to direct, rule, guide, govern. So Latin governor, I don't know how to say it.
All right, sure, but it means to... I'm going to have to break that down a bit more, because where did it go from being a voice of the people, which it should be? Because to rule, sure, but people vote people in to speak for us.
So the evolutionary theory of government holds that government emerged naturally as an association of families, clans, and tribes.
Oh, so it's always hierarchical.
Yeah.
So government is merely a more polite way of ruling, of kingdoms.
Yeah. So the word was coined by, you know, the French, Old French.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on. This is just, let's see what else is happening in New Zealand. Secrecy shrouds which projects might be fast-tracked. Not even the MP supposed to be scrutinising the fast-track bill allowed to know which projects could bypass rules. So some projects are about to hit the ground. They need money. They need funding. So what are they going to do? They're going to tax jobs. They're going to tax people. Whoo! Oh my gosh. Now they're looking for Joseph. Beach dug up in search for missing man. There is an interesting story I am going to share on The Stylander, the magazine that is the magazine for the lives of our days, which you'll see. And I have what's called the publisher's blog, and I share stories and my views on things, and they're not so much feature articles as my features on what I am talking about. And I will be sharing more stories. And there is an interesting story about something that happened in New Zealand in 2021, but it's an ongoing story about a father and his 3 children. And it is a very interesting story to read. So I'll have that up on the publisher's blog. I'm going to move to now Reuters. Why have I got this story here? This is from April 11th. US dollar surges to a new 34-year high versus yen after hotter than expected inflation data. Data, it's all the same. Reuters headlines for today are Trump hush money trial highlights jury selection began in the criminal trial of ex-President Donald Trump. Donald Trump became the first former US president to stand criminal trial when he appeared in a Manhattan courtroom. They always, you know, he should have been tried a long time ago based on the rapes and his heinous existence. But let's continue with what he's actually, and the fact that anyway, the judge told prospective jurors they must set aside biases and at least 50 were dismissed after saying they could not be impartial. Well, at least they're truthful. I couldn't be impartial. By the way, speaking of being impartial, don't get your news from people who are impartial, because that means that they are required to be unemotional and not see truth, merely just echo or ape or voice or be the talking head, which is an old school name for a newsreader, because we were talking heads. You know, I left news journalism for that reason. I could no longer be a talking head. It was important for me that if I'm reading news to you, if I'm sharing news to you, I'm going to share my particular view on it. And and if you want to call that emotion, so be it, because I'm going to say, so what's wrong with you, you robot? You know, I'd rather someone with emotions than the AI crap that is going to be what people are going to be getting their information from. So I'm going to continue with this Trump thing. Oh, gosh. It's a scam, Trump said as he left court. Fake news, fake news. Of course it is. Gosh, he was, you know, you've got to not admire such a beautiful word to then, you know, attach to something. Gosh, so he says it's a scam trial. But I've got to say the audacity of this puppet. And again, as I have said before and shared before, imagine what people could do with a puppet like this if he was actually surrounded by advisors who wanted the best for the people and the country that is the state of America. Imagine, because he will just ape what is around him, what his advisors, his people around him are egging on, because whenever we are focused on Trump, which we should be, because he's a bloody idiot and what he is saying are the words of people around him. So we do need to listen to what he's saying, because he is the result. And we have a Trump of our own in Australia, and that person's name is Pauline Hanson. And so politics and government, they love to trot these people out and make sure that all focus is on these people so that they can go about and do what they are doing. The actual people who are in charge do not for a minute. Do you really think Biden is in charge? Do you think that blithering idiot who we know there's something wrong with him eating ice cream, but if he wasn't holding it like this, we knew it'd be like, where am I? Who am I? I'm sorry. And his wife is a very, accomplished woman, and she's a doctor. So there you go. For me, it's like she is monitoring what's happening. What is happening? What is happening? So he says it's a scam. If you read all the legal pundits, all of the legal scholars today, there's not one that I see that said this is a case that should be brought or tried. Oh, shut up. It's a scam. It's a political witch hunt. Oh, now it's a political witch hunt. When he was going after Obama, then what was that? The search for truth? Now it's a witch hunt. And I love how these males, and I remember Liam Neeson saying that about the Me Too movement. He's saying it's a witch hunt for men. Don't you dare use that term witch hunt if you have got a penis or if you are a misogynist in a woman's body. Witch hunt, we know what that was all about. Duane has said, so if they, well, how do you attribute witches? Women who tell the truth? Yeah. That was what the witch hunts were. So I'm sure you are people who know what's going on in the world, and if you wish to know what's happening with Trump, I'm sure you can read more about it, but my gosh. Now what we do need to talk about is Iranians anxious as Israel weighs strike response. Now yesterday we did know, I read out that from Iran, but it wasn't just Iran, it was it was Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. And now these countries are in solidarity with Palestine. They're all in the Middle East. They're all of Arabic origin, and they are seeing what is happening to a country that has people like them. It doesn't matter about it being like them. It shouldn't be. You know what makes us like the others? Our humanity, being a human being, this one species that we are. Or I don't know what some of you are, honestly. I really don't know what's going on. But Iranians anxious as Israel weighs strike response. I think the entire world is, because when you do retaliate, as the people of Palestine know, when you do retaliate, as anyone knows, as anyone who has been an individual who has had to suffer through a smear campaign, who has to suffer sabotage and atrocities at just one person, and there are many of us, who have been subjected to narcissistic saboteurs. Oh God, look, there's a photo. Look at him. Look at this photograph of Trump. What a, oh, look, sorry. I cannot even look at him. I cannot even look at him. You can look at someone and go, okay, I know who you are. So people who look at Trump and think he is, what eyes are you looking through? Do you know who you are? You can always tell someone by who they align with, what they like, what they support. People are very, very obvious and blatant. And you can always tell. Oh, wow. Israel's military chief says that Israel will respond to Iran's weekend missile attack. Of course they will, as I'm saying. Narcissists and saboteurs, etc., gaslighters, manipulators, genociders, regardless of individuals or collective, when retaliation happens, unfortunately, it's like the Hydra monster of Greek law. Is it Greek or yes, Greek, right? When you cut off one head, the other grows back, and that's what it happens. And likewise, in certain, I remember this really crazy movie called Evolution, starring David Duchovny and Julianne Moore.
I think I've seen it.
And it's just hilarious. And I can't remember who was the fantastic assistant with David Duchovny, who is a well-known Black American actor. It was a funny movie. So in it, they had an alien virus, and the more you attack it, the more it would grow. At any time in fiction, you talk about with anything that is a hostile, and invaders, anything that is hostile, the more you attack it.
Orlando Jones.
Orlando Jones. I was going to say Orlando Bloom, but I knew that wasn't right. But at least in my mind, I got Orlando. Yeah, just to go off, which. Sorry about this, but if you watch the news here, there's going to be a mix of pop culture and what is actually serious stuff here. But it is crazy to read these things and realize I'm not reading a movie synopsis. I'm actually reading real life. The world right now we are basically waiting to see what is going to happen. Brace yourself, people. Brace yourself. We're in for some crazy things. Like maybe another world war. World War III, World War II never ended. Like the Middle Ages have not ended. We are still in the Middle Ages. Technologically.
World War III is still happening.
World War II is still happening.
World War II is still happening.
World War II is still happening.
Wow.
And it's just different chapters of the story of World War II. 100 years later, now, who is the criminal?
The Great War, right?
Yep. Who is, so now, yeah. The people who were the ones who were the victims of such heinous, terrible happenings, murder, the Holocaust. Oh my gosh. The descendants of people who were in that, these ex-European refugees. Oh gosh, it affects me. I'll see you in Studio K shortly, darling. I will now just continue reading this article from the Associated Press. From Jerusalem, Israel's military chief said Monday that his country will respond to Iran's weekend attack, but he did not elaborate on when and how, as world leaders urged against retaliation, trying to avoid a spiral of violence in the Middle East. We need to speak up louder. There needs to be now that ceasefire. And I had said previously, I'm not sure where I said it, that the more they see the word ceasefire, the more it's like, and I have to say it. I did have dealings with, not dealings, that's what a terribly mercenary, callous way, or not mercenary, but callous way to say it. But I'm going to share something with you. It's anorexic people, and people who suffer from anorexia nervosa. Calling them skinny actually makes them feel like they've succeeded in it's a disease of the mind, and they feel they've succeeded. So when you say, oh my gosh, you're getting thin, you're so thin, they think, great. That's what's happening with Israel. The more the world is going ceasefire, etc., because they don't care about people. You think these people care about people? They don't care about what you as an individual care about them. So putting ceasefire, all it does is show people your allegiance, or then, I have lost over 1,000 account followers on my Instagram account because of my stances, pro-humanity. So if you're on the side of humanity, you're going to lose people. If you're going to tell the truth, you're going to lose people. If you're going to talk about what trauma actually is, you're going to lose people. People are selfish and too caught up in their own trauma as well, because a lot of people are hiding their trauma, and it's called avoidance, by advocating for other people's trauma, which is noble seeming, sure, because I don't want to have to get caught up in my suffering when all these people are suffering out. It's terrible. But, as that term says, you have to put that oxygen mask on yourself first. And so many people are suffocating inside themselves and using advocacy as oxygen to make them come alive. And that is just operating from a very numb, stunted point of view and perspective. I'm going to continue reading the story. The Iranian attack on Saturday came, still from the Associated Press. The Iranian attack on Saturday came in response to a suspected Israeli strike 2 weeks earlier on an Iranian consular building in the Syrian capital of Damascus that killed 2 Iranian generals. It marked the first time Iran has launched a direct military assault on Israel, despite decades of, animosity and enmity dating back to the country's 1979 Islamic Revolution. So Iran launched hundreds of drones, ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles at Israel in the attack. The Israel military said that 99% of the drones and missiles were intercepted by Israel's own air defenses and warplanes, and in coordination with a US-led coalition of partners. Oh, they've really thrown the state of America into it, haven't they? That Orange Joffrey saying if he was still president, this wouldn't be happening. Yeah, that's because he would give Israel more power. By the way, they did have a casualty. A 7-year-old girl was injured by Israel's own air defenses and warplanes in coordination with a US-led coalition of partners. The Israel military chief said Monday that Israel is considering its next steps, but that the Iranian strike will be met with a response. Oh boy. Brace yourself, people. Brace yourself. Look, I think it's time now to head to Studio K. I haven't had time to read out what's happening from other news outlets, say in Fiji, but let's talk about an ongoing news item from Fiji I'm reading is Fiji's aging water infrastructure. Some pipes are 101 years old. And Raw Felipe apologizes for using words human stupidity. I don't. I am no longer, because I understand as a species, majority I'm reading now from Fiji Village, the last. As our aging water infrastructure, Fiji's water infrastructure continues to create havoc on thousands of residents, it has been revealed that some areas have water pipes that are 101 years old. Minister for Public Works says he is focusing on how they budget on water and roads infrastructure because there's more pothole than road in Fiji, making it more climate resilient and tap into climate financing. He's also looking at urgent road repairs based on this strategy. He has also apologized for saying that human stupidity caused the damage to the main water line last week that affected thousands of residents. He says he should not have said that, as the Water Authority of Fiji and the Fiji Roads Authority are looking at all the procedures and processes in terms of cabling and excavations. So everyone's going to blame everybody else. But it is a colonial infrastructure, and because, listen, there is a mentality in Fiji that because the Euros did this, it's going to last forever, because colonization seems to be lasting forever. So naturally they think the Euros infrastructure will last forever. That's not the case. The leaks are happening, friends. The leaks are getting bigger and bigger. These holes are not going to be contained. I suggest I suggest we look at ourselves to change ourselves. And with that, I will ask you to look at this wonderful shade of pink. I'm wearing pink because long-term viewers or viewers who have been watching the Daily Egg know that we're following the colors of Chaitra Navratri, which is a Hindu festival honoring, and the Chaitra Navratri is honoring Durga, who is a goddess of the Hindu what? Theology? I love Hinduism because it is science-based. I am not religious. I wouldn't say I'm Hindu, but I was brought up Hindu, and I do like the science of it. And I have said that the usage of colors, they apply that and connect that to the 9 nights in praise of the goddess Durga, who was sent to Earth to fight evil, because unfortunately on Earth we are given good, and then people then from that comes apathy, because everyone gets lazy and complacent, so think that they don't have to do anything, and therefore they don't want to make decisions. All those people, government can make decisions for us. People become, complacent and fence sitters, or just not caring. And so from that is born evil. And according to all theology, all mythology, even all our character fiction, stories, all the entertainment things, and really what gets blamed is when people in fiction, particularly in the Eurostream fiction, which is Hollywood, they like to say that the advent of the hero causes more evil, and that's not true. And we discussed this in an upcoming finalysis dropping this week, darling.
Yep.
Well, just part 1 of that dropping soon. Stay tuned to our channel. Look around. There's a TV guide there on our channel homepage and on the Starlander of all the shows that are dropping, and I will have the schedule up on our channel homepage as well. As I'm saying, so fiction likes to say that evil is the result of of people standing up for good. No. So theology and religion, the tales of religion. So Durga was sent to Earth because there was too much kerfuffle. So of course they have to send a woman. Okay, they had to fix what's happened, what the men did, what the males are doing. So all the gods and demons are fighting each other, and then Shakti, which is the essence, the ether, the primordial ooze, the whatever. The energy that we all come from, that we are sitting in this universe. We talked about all of that last night in Sitara. It was a bit of all sorts, because we were introducing what we were doing, why we were doing, and I'll talk a little bit more about Sitara. But going back to Navratri, actually we should have talked about Navratri in Sitara, because Sitara is our show about everything celestial, and that is astronomy. That is also astrology, the first science before astronomy and theology. Now, I'm talking about Navratri, which is to honor the goddess Durga, and there's different colors connected to the different goddess forms of the main goddess Durga, who herself is a manifestation of Shakti, Adi Shakti, who is feminine, because so in the 9 nights, there are colors that are, so today is pink, so we're wearing pink. And I've got some interesting information about the color pink for you. Pink, they say, is a woman's color. No, it's not. It actually was a man's color, because pink is a derivative, or is a variation or a shade, or it comes from red, and red was an aggressive color of man. And a pink mist is when they slash and the spray of blood comes out onto the warfield, and it is a pink mist. Yeah. Pink was a color for men to have less aggression than red, but to still show that they were rulers. It only became a color for women when it was diluted 100 years ago, and I do think that pink was then given to, I'm not sure about this, but I have written stories about it, and in those articles I have cited that this cannot, I haven't found the fact for it, and maybe new facts have arisen, but during the start of this continuing war we're still in, World War II, the people of Jewish faith, the men who were gay, were given pink stars, diluted men. by the Nazis, and this is what I have read, and I will share a link to an article that I wrote from my old blog.
Because their flag is red.
Right, so it was a dilution. And blue, how can blue, which is a calming, serene color, be attributed to men? Hello? Since when has blue been a man's color and pink been, so pink is actually a color for men, but I feel that pink truly is the color for a woman, taking everything, the femininity and the assertiveness.
Well, blood.
Blood, right? And red and pinks, etc. But another interesting thing about pink is that it doesn't exist on our spectrum. And because our minds are such is that we need to, I love the way you're looking at me right now, darling. Duane, my husband, when I talk, when I share all the information I share,
Keep talking, baby. Keep talking.
just loves it. So as I was saying about pink, and Duane, of course, being an artist and knowing all the shades and gradients of all the colors, interestingly enough, if I asked him a different color, like say, give me something, give me some blues here, darling, some different, give me that. Okay, so give me that. What color is this, darling?
Bluish, greenish, blue.
Give me that ice cream container full of oat leaves. Mm-hmm. What color is this?
Blue.
Right. What color is this?
Blue.
Okay.
Dark blue.
All right, so you can say that. But as an artist, Duane can do all the different variations. But this is a royal blue. That is a navy. This may be considered duck egg blue, and that is, wow, that's sky blue. So the different, but if I asked you to, give me those colors in paint form, you would.
Yeah, sure.
So a words person has the words for the different colors. You, at being an artist, you can actually just make the colors yourself.
Right.
But I was talking about pink. So because as human beings, our brains need to round things off, and this is why this is where people's ideas and their comfort zones, where they stop thinking, because thinking is hard work. That's why so very few people actually do it. And I'm not being facetious nor sarcastic. Thinking is really hard work. At the end of every show, I am not drained, I'm energized, but I do need to sit down because the script is in my head. I don't prepare. I have news tabs open of various things I'd like to read, but as soon as I press live, the script is ready and the auto cue is in my head. And of course, I do tend to digress a bit because I have a lot of information in my library. So I do like to access it all. Anyway, as I was saying, human beings like to round things off so that we can have a nice, otherwise everyone feels very like, oh my gosh, they don't know how, and they're not comfortable with having an open side of a circle. People aren't comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But thank goodness our actual synapses, our neural pathways, etc., they also require some rounding off. And this is where damage does happen to people, because people fill in that empty space with rubbish, with static, with bullshit, with false information, with comfort zone narratives, etc. Going back to pink on the spectrum, because we need to find the bridge to connect the colors on the spectrum, which are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And in order to connect all of those, you've got to have violet and red connecting, and then we have pink, which is opposite to green on the color spectrum, by the way. By the way, these earrings I'm wearing are by Buffy Karuna, a Noongar woman from Noongar region, and Noongar is Western Australian side. Buffy Karuna, Buffy Creative, wonderful, wonderful artwork. We have a lot of art pieces, and this one is Sisters, it's called, and it's all purples and pinks, and all her earrings and jewelry are all symbolic of First Nations people, but from the Western Australian side, which is There. There. So yeah, but beautiful, beautiful earrings, and I love them. This one is called Sisters, and forgive me, I am I can't always access everything in my mind library. Now, I do know the actual Noongar word for sisters, so my apologies. My apologies. That is absolutely. But if I look up here, I will find it. What else are we talking about today, darling?
Mike Tyson's in the news again.
Mike Tyson's in the news again. Gosh, why? Tell me.
There's this YouTube boxer called Jake Paul. He fights all the professionals. It's just for show. It's just entertainment thing. So he's fighting Mike Tyson to make history or something.
What? Okay. Does Mike Tyson know he's fighting this guy?
Oh yeah, he's looking dangerous as hell. And
this guy better, wrap his ears.
Well, it's not a real boxing match, really. So it's just for show.
Look, I can't really get behind the whole Tyson thing because Tyson's a rapist.
Well,
I can't forgive that. I know people change. I know people and guys, interestingly enough, because this has happened a lot and women have come to see it more and more, but they always cancel the brown and black guys, like Aziz Ansari.
Yeah.
Remember what happened to him? He was all over the place. He was a top comedian. He had shows. He was brilliant. He was doing all sorts of things until somebody he had sex with came out and said, well, actually, I didn't want to have sex with him, but every time I kept saying no, he kept saying, yes, you do want it, and blah, blah, blah. And so it's an interesting thing, and you and I have to talk about this, because I remember that when we've talked about this, Duane has told me some stories about experiences with him and when he was in his younger days, and you were seeing, girls, and you were a young man, and so you broke up with a girl you were seeing, right?
Yeah.
And because, there was no physical action. And you were like, well, you were a young man. You want physical action with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
So you broke up. And she said to you, and this is crazy to hear, what did she say to you?
She said, you should have just forced it.
God!
I know. And I'm like, so you wanted me to force you to have sex with me? Like, I said it. I said, you wanted me to rape you.
Ugh.
I mean,
and
I don't know.
And I have to say that, okay, this happened in a cultural environment. So we come from Fiji. It's multicultural, and we're still bound by the, tradition and all that stuff. And a modern people, tropopolitan. But I do love that about multicultural countries. I do absolutely love how we can be a mix of traditional and modern. Unfortunately, the tradition doesn't want to let go of its tentacles in the people, because when you start letting go of tradition, you are more liberated in what you are able to do. However, that doesn't mean you have to then be disrespectful of it. I believe tradition needs to move with the times. It needs to be flexible. It needs to be relevant for today. But saying this, so the reason why I feel is because in multicultural countries, when women, gosh, particularly, Fiji drips with sensuality. Everywhere you look, it's luscious. It basically screams procreation and fertility and lusciousness and sensuality But of course, the missionaries put a stop to all of that, didn't they? And their buttoned-up collars and their repressed ways. And no, don't do that. Ugh, because they were all stinky. They didn't have showers. Anyway, so they saw all the people of these wonderful islands, all naked and beautiful. Imagine, Fijians, the Kaiviti, are beautiful, beautiful colors and beautiful bodies, etc., when they were eating well. Now, of course, unfortunately, they're all eating not well, and everyone is stressed. And with stress comes the bloat. Fat is not the issue. Fat is not the problem. It's the bloat, and then trying to make everyone else accept the unhealthiness of it by changing the environment. But I have absolutely gone away from what I was saying. So I feel that this young woman saying that to Duane, and Duane was like, I don't think so. Because of tradition, and women also want to have sex. Young women also have that electricity. It happens at like late teens, 20s, when we have that electricity. Of course, it happens at puberty, but that's when we're supposed to be protected, not abused and assaulted and raped like some of us have been, like at the onset of, puberty, etc. But I think it's about taking responsibility. So if the guy forces her, the woman can say, "It wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. I didn't want sex." You know, it's passing the onus, because every time a woman has said, "Yes, I want sex," especially a young woman in those environments, in those tropopolitan multicultural societies that require us all to be in the modern day with our modern conveniences and technology, etc. But our minds have to be way back in ancient times. How so? How so? How does that work? How does that work that we are expected to be modern people with tradition, putting a noose around our necks and saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, you can't do that"? Boy, pink really gives me a lot of energy. Anyway, where was I? So I was talking about Sitara. So that is our new show that we launched on Monday. It's at Monday at 5 o'clock, and we are a bit all over the place, and that is because I did go off script, and Duane had a few facts and figures. Wow. But next week is a structured format. We just wanted to introduce who we are, why we want to talk about everything celestial, because Duane and I are astronomy nuts. We science, astrophysics, etc. And it's not just astronomy. It is about our origins, and astrology was the way for people of this planet when we didn't have the sciences. Astrology was what people use, what we term astrology now. The watching of the stars, the patterns, the chronicling of all of that was the original science of understanding what is out there and how does it affect us. How, they kept patterns for hundreds of years, and when people would read them, they'd go, every month, people born in this month tend to exhibit certain qualities that make them all the same. Or that, wow, when that moon comes out, or whatever, that big shiny thing that comes out just once a month, it's first small and then it's huge. What is that? Oh my gosh, it must be a god. And we talked about that in Sitara, how people who did not know what things were, who maybe didn't even know words back then, looked at all of these things, these celestial happenings, and could only surmise there is something magnificent greater than us out there, something that created us, that gave us all of this bounty of earth that we were born to, with food, abundant food, and other species that, oh, look, they want to kill us, so we've got to kill them, but oh, yum. I don't know. I think we lived more in harmony with other species than not thinking of ourselves as superior. We're not superior. We were just chosen to be the species that got to evolve to be who we are today, so that we can be the custodians of this planet.
Does that make us superior?
No, not at all. We were given the responsibility of, so in some ways it was like, you guys are not going to amount to much, we've got to evolve you. And why haven't the animals, except now in modern day, and where you can see this? Cat videos on Instagram. Cats are so clever. You got me onto the fact that cats are very, very clever. And they're just mini lions. They're going to kill you if they were any bigger. They're fantastic. They're intelligent. Actually, more intelligent lions, I think. But anyway, so that's us for today. This was today's The Daily Egg. Woo! We do have a show. Do we have a show dropping today? No, not at all. We have a show dropping tomorrow. Join us for Rocks and Rolls. That is our show talking everything rugby. We'll explain why rugby, why we love rugby, what our association with rugby is, and the things we know and like. We were analyzing some matches of last year's Rugby World Cup, and we will be continuing to do that throughout the rugby season of this year. And what else? We've got the slideshow dropping on Thursday. Please look at our channel for scheduled shows coming up. I'd love you to join us. Of course, you don't have to join us live, but it's always lovely to have people here live. Otherwise, you can see the shows at your leisure. They're all at Australian Eastern Standard Time for our time side, for people in Fiji, for people in Australia and New Zealand to watch. But of course, if you're in the north, if you're on the other side of the world. And thank you very much. I know there's quite a few of you who do watch, so thank you. I really appreciate that. It's lovely to be reaching out to people with the same outlook on life globally. Okay, that's us for today. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow on tomorrow's The Daily Egg. Otherwise, have fun, explore, enjoy the lives of our days. Thank you. Bye.